At my dad's 60th birthday, he joked, "Still single? Maybe one day you'll be someone's second choice." My stepmom cackled, "If they're drunk enough." So I stood up, toasted him, and handed over the deed to their house. "Happy birthday, you're renting now." He asked if I was serious. I said, "More than your vows. My name is Nathan. I'm 31. Oldest kid, only kid from my mom. The one who learned early to carry his own backpack, buy his own cleats, drive himself to his own practices. In our family, effort didn't earn attention. Spectacle did. My dad deals in spectacle. So does my stepmom. My half-brother Tyler? He's the golden one, born shiny, never needed polishing. I work in operations for a logistics company. Not glamorous. Lots of spreadsheets. Lots of calls at 7 a.m. about pallets that aren't where they should be. It pays well enough. I share a cheap two-bedroom with a friend from college. I make my own lunches. I keep receipts neat in a shoebox. Whatever I have, I built. Growing up, I learned to be small. If Tyler aced a spelling test, there was cake. If I got into the honors program, my dad asked if I was trying to make your brother feel bad. When I was 16, he skipped my band recital for a poker night. When I asked why, he said, "If you wanted a crowd, play something people know." I told myself none of it stuck. It stuck. I tell you this, so the next part lands. My dad turned 60 last Saturday. He loves birthdays like boxers love weigh-ins, crowds, clapping, an excuse to pose. He booked a private room at a steakhouse with chandeliers shaped like antlers and a server who kept saying "my pleasure" like it hurt. There were 40 people, cousins, golf buddies, neighbors who loved to talk about property values. The whole thing looked sponsored by Ego. I came with a bottle of mid-range bourbon and a card. I wore a shirt my dad couldn't call too try-hard. I found my place at a long table. Tyler slid into the seat across from me, dripping gold chain and comfort. My stepmom air-kissed me from 2 inches away and whispered, "You look thin," like it was a crime. We ate. People told stories about my dad's hustle. Someone brought up how he rebuilt after the 2008 crash. He didn't. Other people did. Tyler bragged about a new car he almost bought. My stepmom kept laughing with the volume of someone who wants to be seen enjoying things. Around dessert, Dad stood for a speech. He did the routine. He thanked the lady who saved my life. He's been married to her for 9 years. He toasted the future of our family, Tyler. He did a fake cry bit. People clapped like a laugh track. Then he looked straight at me. "And my man, Nate," he said, tilting his glass, "still single. Maybe one day you'll be someone's second choice." The room did that thing where it half gasps and half chuckles, like maybe it's not a joke, but we're going to treat it like one until someone tells us not to. My stepmom cackled into her napkin and added, "If they're drunk enough." Silverware paused. I watched two cousins study their plates. Tyler smirked into his water. I waited for someone older to cut it, to say, "Hey, not cool." No one did. My dad winked like we were co-conspirators. "Kidding," he said, "not kidding." He lifted his glass higher. I felt my throat get tight. Not from tears, from heat. A familiar heat. The kind that says, "Here we go again." The part where you nod and swallow it down and help stack chairs anyway. My aunt leaned toward me and stage whispered, "He's just teasing. Don't be so sensitive." I smiled without showing teeth. I raised my glass too. I didn't stand up. Not yet. I can tell you the exact temperature of that room. I can tell you the number of cherries left on my plate, too. I can tell you who avoided my eyes, everyone I expected. What I can't tell you is why this one landed where the others bounced. Maybe birthdays sharpened things. Maybe turning 31 made the math different. Either way, it was the first time I felt something in me stop agreeing to the terms. I put the glass down. I folded my napkin. I looked at my dad. He grinned like he'd nailed the line. "Happy 60, I said calm. And I meant it. I didn't say anything else. Not yet. The server lit the candles. The chant started. I mouthed the words and stared at the flames until they blurred. Here's the slow part, the part that explains why one joke felt like the last brick on a stack. When my parents divorced, I was 10. Dad met Denise, my stepmom, within a year. By 12, I was the mature one, which meant I didn't ask for things. Tyler came along and the family orbit shifted, like a ceiling fan wobbling until it finds a new center. "You're so independent," people told me. That's how favoritism sounds when it wants to wear a compliment. At 15, I started bussing tables at a diner to pay for a used laptop. Dad saw the tip cash and said, "You're rich." Then he borrowed $70 until Friday. Friday turned into next month. I never saw that money again. Small thing. Brick one. At 18, I got a partial scholarship to a state school. Mom cried happy tears. Dad shrugged. Let's see if you stick with it. When tuition gaps hit, I took night shifts in a warehouse. I called Dad once to ask if I could crash on his couch between finals and a 5 a.m. shift. He said, I'd love to help, but Denise hates clutter. I slept in my car. Brick 2. At 20, Tyler got a speeding ticket and no insurance. Dad called me. You're good with money. Can you help your brother out? We'll pay you back. I sent $350 and a polite no rush. The payback never came. Brick 3. At 22, Dad asked me to co-sign for a used Civic for Tyler so he could get to his new job. I said I wasn't comfortable. Dad called me ungrateful on speaker in front of Denise. Family helps family, she said, filing her nails. Don't be petty. I said no again. They put it in their pocket like a grudge coin. Brick 4. At 24, the house Dad and Denise lived in, the one my grandparents bought outright back in the day, was in trouble. Long story short, Dad refinanced twice during a boom, cashed out for investments, and then the market did me dirty. He was 2 months from default. He called me, voice smaller than I'd ever heard it. Nate, I'm in a bind. I didn't have a lot of cash, but I had enough saved from years of choosing night shifts over weekends. I also had decent credit and exactly zero desire to see the house my grandparents built get sucked into a bank spreadsheet. Talk to the bank, I said. I'll cover the arrears if they restructure. But I need my name on the deed, and I'll set it up in an LLC. I'll keep the mortgage paid. You cover taxes and utilities. We'll put it in writing. Dad hesitated. Denise didn't. As long as we keep living here, she said. We care about stability. That word tasted strange coming from her. We signed everything at a title office with bad art on the walls. I used an attorney from work to set up the paperwork cleanly. Dad hugged me in the parking lot. You saved us, he said. Denise air-kissed my cheek. You're a good son, she said. It almost sounded real. Year 1, I paid like clockwork. They sent $400 toward taxes one time and called it covering our share. Year 2, they asked if I could spot them the property taxes because money's tight. I paid them and heard, we'll pay you back, go straight to voicemail in the universe. Year 3, they asked for a little help remodeling the kitchen because it'll increase the home's value for you. They texted me marble samples while I was on a forklift. Guys, I wrote back, we agreed. I carry the mortgage. You cover taxes, repairs you want, and utilities. Denise replied, you're being rigid. Dad followed with, it's an investment. Don't you want nice things? A month later, I got a late notice on the water bill. I paid it to avoid a shutoff. Then we had a conversation at their dining table that went like this. Me, we need boundaries. Dad, we're family. Me, that's why there's a written agreement. Denise, you're acting like a landlord. Me, I am the owner. Silence. A new brick. Tyler drifted in and out of these years like a frequent storm. New jobs, old excuses. They don't respect my talent. He crashed the Civic into a mailbox, asked if he could use my car just for a week, and called me stuck up when I said no. He opened a clothing brand that was mostly hoodies with his initials and demanded seed funding. I gave him a list of free accelerators and told him to make a budget. He texted, wow, thanks for the TED Talk. Later he asked me to float his rent for a couple months. I paid the landlord directly once and told him it was a one-time thing. He posted a story with a champagne emoji that night. Words I heard a lot. Selfish, sensitive, ungrateful. Words I said a lot. Sure, fine, okay. Then came last fall. Dad called me on a Tuesday. You know Denise's cousin, the realtor? He said. She says the market is shifting. If we add a deck, the place will be worth a ton. Could you pull some equity from your thing? And we'll pay you back when we sell in a few years. Pull equity from my thing, I repeated. The LLC, he said. It's basically yours, right? Not basically, I said. Exactly. Silence. Then he said the quiet part. Put Denise on it, too. For peace. No, I said. Nate, he said, hurt morphing into anger. You never do anything without a spreadsheet. Correct, I said. He hung up. Denise texted a paragraph about how wives need security. Tyler chimed in with, it's not like you'd even notice the money, bro. 2 weeks later, Dad joked at Thanksgiving that I should be the one to give a blessing because you're the bank. People laughed. My cousin asked if I charged interest at Christmas. In January, I sent a simple email with bullet points. I will continue covering the mortgage on time. You are responsible for taxes and utilities. If a bill is late, I'll pay it and add it to a ledger. No further loans toward renovations. No adding names to the LLC. If taxes go unpaid twice in a year, I will convert our arrangement into a lease. I attached the original agreement. I used simple words. My attorney said, "Good, create a paper trail." Dad called me cruel. Denise said I was punishing a woman for wanting stability. Tyler texted me a middle finger emoji. I saved all of it. Then spring came with 2 missed tax payments. I paid them. I updated the ledger. I sent another email. Denise replied with a selfie from a spa and the words, "You're impossible, Nathan." Which brings us back to the steakhouse. Don't get me wrong. I didn't sit there plotting some dramatic reveal. I was trying not to ruin a party. I wanted to make it to cake without becoming the story. But all the little years are heavy. And sometimes one sentence is enough weight to set them down. Candles out. People clapped. The server whisked away plates. My dad sat, grin fixed, cheeks a little too red. He loved the sound of himself in the room. He'd love the sound of me leaving quietly even more. That thought bothered me more than the joke. I stood. A few heads turned. My stepmom's mouth formed an O, ready for performance. I held up my glass. To my dad, I said, 60 years. That's no small number. You taught me how to change a tire, how to talk to a customer when they're mad, and how to ask for help even when it hurts. I let that hang a second. You taught me other things, too, but we'll save those for therapy. Nervous laughs. My aunt's eyebrows moved like birds. I don't do speeches, I said. So I'll keep this tight. I brought you something. It's not wrapped cute. There's no bow. I reached into my jacket and pulled out a thin manila folder. My dad tried to chuckle. Is it a job application for Nate's future wife? He said. Someone tittered like they'd get points for backing the boss. I set the folder on the table in front of him. It's paperwork, I said. My favorite. Denise leaned over it. What is it? She asked, already annoyed. First page, I said. Statement from the county confirming the property taxes are current. You're welcome. Her smile twitched. Second page, I said. A ledger. It shows the past 3 years. Mortgage, me. Water and electric, me when you forgot. Taxes, me when you needed a little help. Total, $41,327. Not a bill, just numbers. My dad's face did a thing I'd seen before when a joke met a wall. Okay, he said slowly. Not exactly birthday material. Third page, I went on. Correspondence I sent in January. Terms we agreed on originally. The part about converting the arrangement into a lease if the taxes kept getting missed. He flipped the page, hands a little less steady. Fourth page, I said. A signed lease. Effective next month. Market rate. Managed by a property company, so you don't have to deal with my spreadsheets. They'll email you tomorrow with the portal. The room went very quiet. Someone's fork clinked against a plate and froze there. My stepmom's voice found itself first. You can't be serious. I looked at my dad. He asked if I was serious. I said, more than your vows. There were gasps. It wasn't my cleanest line. It was honest. Dad pushed his chair back. It scraped the floor like a shout. You would do this to your own father? He said, volume rising. After everything I've done for you. You're renting now, I said softly. Happy birthday. He slapped the folder with the back of his hand, like that would send it away. You ungrateful. Don't, I said. My voice surprised me. Calm, even. I kept the mortgage current, so the house wouldn't be auctioned. I put everything in writing. I asked for boundaries. You broke them. Twice. I told you what would happen. This isn't a surprise. This isn't about revenge. This is about closure. Denise stood so fast her chair toppled. You cannot evict us, she hissed. We are family. No one said eviction. I said. Pay rent on the first like everyone else. Taxes and utilities are covered by the property company and included. No more ledgers. No more weird texts. Clean lines. She laughed in disbelief. And if we refuse? Then the lease defaults, I said. And the process follows. It's in the packet. Tyler finally joined like he'd been waiting for his cue. Dude, he said, jabbing a finger across the table. You've always been like this. Acting superior. Counting everything. I count because someone has to, I said. My dad's eyes were wet now, the performative kind he could summon. How dare you embarrass me in front of my friends? Dad, I said. You embarrassed me in front of them 5 minutes ago. He gestured wildly at the room. It was a joke. So was we'll pay you back, I said. I learned to hear the punchline. A cousin stood like she might intervene, then sat. My aunt whispered, maybe step outside, to no one in particular. I took a breath. The part I'd rehearsed with my therapist came next. I'm not staying to argue, I said. This is not a debate. I'll answer questions tomorrow when the property manager emails you. Tonight is your party. Eat your cake. He stared at the lease like it was written in a language he refused to learn. You can't do this, he said again, a smaller voice finally showing under the showman. I already did, I said. I set my glass down. I looked at the two cherries. I left them there. As I turned to go, my dad's friend, one of those men who wears golf shirts like armor, touched my elbow. Son, he murmured, fatherly. Are you sure you want to torch this bridge? I met his eyes. I didn't bring the matches, I said. I brought a map. I walked out into air that smelled like rain. For a second, the door's heavy hush muffled the room. When it swung shut, the sound of everyone talking at once broke like a wave behind me. At 7:13 a.m. the next morning, my phone lit up with a missed call from Dad. By 7:19, there were 5. By noon, 19 missed calls, 8 voicemails, 12 texts. The messages formed a neat timeline of family tactics. Voicemail 1. Son, we need to talk. You went too far. Text from Denise. You humiliated me. Voicemail 2. Your grandmother would be disgusted. She would not. She was the one who taught me to keep receipts. Text from Tyler. You are sick. Voicemail 3. Okay, look. Maybe we got behind. We'll make it up next month. Email from the property company landed at 12:06 with the subject. Welcome to your resident portal. It outlined the rent, fare, the due date, the first, the deposit, standard, the late fee policy, also standard. It had a line that said, please direct all maintenance requests through this portal. At 12:14, Denise texted, I will not be treated like a tenant in my own home. At 12:20, Dad left voicemail 4. I spoke to a lawyer friend. Family law says, he trailed off. There is no family law that undoes signed real estate documents because someone is mad. At 2:03, Tyler, can you at least lend me $2K until this blows over? I put my phone on Do Not Disturb and went for a long, ugly jog that turned into a walk where I counted fire hydrants to quiet my brain. When I got home, I wiped my shoes on the mat and made a sandwich. It tasted like quiet. Day 2, the group chat lit up. Aunt, maybe you could have a sit down and apologize for the tone? Cousin, rent isn't crazy if you think about it. Uncle, the one who refers to himself as a straight shooter, men provide. Are you a man or what? I removed myself from the thread. Aunt texted separately. You didn't have to make a scene. I replied, I chose boundaries in public because I've tried them in private and they bounced. She read it and sent back a heart because she didn't have a better sticker. Day 3, Dad showed up at my apartment unannounced. My roommate texted from the buzzer. There's a man here who looks like he thinks he's in a movie. I went down. Dad started talking before the door finished opening. We can work this out, he said. You don't have to go nuclear. I didn't, I said. I sent emails in January. I used words like convert to a lease, and you replied with spa selfies. He worked his jaw. We're family. That's why I didn't sell it, I said. That's why I used a lease instead of a lockout. He looked genuinely confused. You'd sell my house? It's not your house, I said, not unkind. It hasn't been for years. He looked older then, 60s settling into his shoulders. Your mother left me, he said, producing an unrelated wound like a witness. Everything is always taken from me. I didn't leave, I said. I just stopped paying for you to pretend. He stared at the ground. I can't afford market rent, he said, quieter. Then downsize, I said. Or budget. Or ask your golden child to cut a check. He flinched. We stood there with the hum of the street filling the space. I'm not trying to hurt you, I said. I am trying to stop letting your choices write checks against my life. He glanced up. So you're not moving back in to help? It was almost funny. No, I said. He put a hand on the glass like a movie dad in a movie rain scene. You're not who I thought you were, he said. I am exactly who I am, I said. You just can't spend it anymore. The property company did what property companies do. They sent reminders. They offered an online payment plan if needed. Denise wrote an email to their general inbox that started, as a woman, and ended with, I expect courtesy. The rep replied with a link to the lease and the line. We enforce the terms equally for all residents. I printed that email and slid it into the shoebox with my receipts because it felt like a small miracle. Tyler posted a story. Some people betray blood for money. I didn't watch it. Someone screenshotted it for me anyway. A week later, Dad texted me a photo of the lease with a shaky signature at the bottom. Denise signed with a flourish that looked like a threat. The deposit cleared. The first rent payment hit. The world did not end. They were not homeless. They were tenants. It turns out being treated like everyone else isn't a tragedy. It's just an adjustment. My phone still buzzed. Some days I ignored it. Some days I answered. Do you feel good about this? Dad asked once flat. No, I said. I feel clean. What does that mean, he said. It means my stomach doesn't hurt when your name pops up. That afternoon, I took a long shower and washed my hair twice and let the water run an extra minute because for the first time in a long time, I wanted the quiet more than I wanted to hurry back to fix something. Here's what I know now. I can love people and still lock the door. I can be generous and still keep a ledger. I can remember my grandparents' porch light without letting it become a lighthouse I steer every paycheck toward forever. I didn't ruin my dad's birthday. I ended a pattern on a day he picked to stand in a room and say things out loud. He wanted an audience. He got one. So did I. Since the party, the world got slower in the good ways. I make coffee at home and sit by the window instead of gulping it on the way out the door. I read paperbacks on the bus again. I go to therapy on Tuesdays and say sentences I was scared to say before, like, I don't have to explain my boundaries to people who plan to violate them. I'm not a hero. I am a man with a folder and a spine I found under a pile of Be Nice. I answer some of my dad's calls when I have the bandwidth. He tells me about his knees. I ask if he's paying on time. We don't pretend to be a different father and son. We try to be the ones we actually are. Tyler texted my bad, once at 2 a.m., the kind of apology that drips out when rent clears. I wrote back the next afternoon. Hope you're building something you can afford. No emoji. No lecture. Just a line that wasn't a bridge or a wall. More like a fence with a gate I control. The house. It's fine. The roof needed a patch. They filed a maintenance request like human beings. A contractor fixed it. Denise sent a single-word email. Thanks. I printed that too, not for evidence, just because it felt like a weather report. Still petty, chance of okay. If you're reading this and you're the Nate of your family, the quiet mule, the reliable background, here's my plain advice. Keep receipts. Get things in writing. Stop loaning money to stories. Don't do big reveals unless you already tried small conversations and they bounced. And if you do make a boundary in a room full of people, keep your voice low. It won't make them less mad, but it'll make you less shaky. On my dad's voicemail, there are still messages I haven't listened to. One day I will. One day I won't feel like I'm bracing before I hit play. In the meantime, I'm busy. I'm learning to marinate chicken the night before. I'm running without counting hydrants. I'm letting myself want things that don't have a receipt. He asked if I was serious. I was. I still am. No revenge. Just closure. And a lease that starts on the 1st.